Welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Brian Halley, and you're listening to the Brandstanding Podcast. I'm excited to help you unlock the magic of brand strategy to supercharge your business in a way that's practical, easy, and fun. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Brandstanding Podcast. My name is Brian Halley, and I'm here with my wife, the co-host, the beautiful Emily Halley.
Hi, everybody.
In previous episodes, we have been discussing the 3 phases of branding. And in the first phase of branding, we've talked about 4 pillars. And last time we talked about the 4th pillar, brand personality, and showed how you can use archetypes as a shortcut to build your brand personality. And today we are going to walk you guys through the first 3 archetypes: the innocent, the explorer, and the sage. But first, let's review what an archetype is.
I guess that's me. Yeah. Okay. So, an archetype is a universally recognized pattern, symbol, or character type that reflects fundamental human experiences, emotions, and behaviors.
Yeah, archetypes are deeply embedded in our collective unconscious, a concept popularized by the psychologist Carl Jung, and they influence the way we perceive and interact with the world. So archetypes also appear in myths, religions, art. They resonate with us because they tap into the shared cultural and emotional truths of the world. And they are used as familiar frameworks for storytelling and communication. And this makes them a super shortcut to use in your branding and marketing.
Right. Brands can adopt an archetype as a basis for their personality. And because everyone in the world understands these characters on a subconscious level, that means that your audience is going to understand who you are really quickly. And for the business owner, this means that you're saving time and money in the marketing process. So there are 12 brand archetypes. They are the innocent, the explorer, the sage, the hero, the outlaw, the magician, the jester, the lover, the everyman, the caregiver, the ruler, and the creator. So we thought it'd be fun to talk about some popular movies
Why
where
not?
these characters show up for us. So let's do Star Wars.
Okay.
Okay. So Luke, of course, in Star Wars is the hero of the story. Han Solo is the outlaw character. C-3PO is the innocent. He's really smart, but he never really knows what's going on. And then you have characters like Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi acting as the sage.
That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
What's another movie? Hunger Games. Go
Yeah,
for Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. So Katniss is the hero in that show. Haymitch is the sage or the mentor. Prim, her sister, is the innocent. Gale is the lover. Cinna, that's the guy that designs her outfits and stuff in the Capitol. He's a creator. And Peta is a caregiver.
The movie industry has to tap into these archetypal stories and characters because they know they only have a short window, like 2 to 3 hours while you're in that theater, to connect with people. We have expectations about how each of these characters will act, what they want, and what their role is in their story. Very powerful.
Yeah, and that's going to become really important if you choose an archetype for your brand because you can play off of those expectations that people already have.
Yeah. You don't need to spend all your time trying to build it from the foundation level. Just get what's already in their minds.
Right.
So over the course of the next 4 episodes, we're going to divide the archetypes up into chunks of 3. Today, we'll be covering the innocent, explorer, and sage. If you are interested in choosing an archetype for your brand, What you are looking for is an archetypal story that aligns with your brand mission, goals, and is authentic to you, your company culture, and your customers' goals and values. It's quite a lot of stuff. It's why we talk about all the things in the different pillars, but you want to use all that information to be able to choose an archetype. I think it's really important to learn about all of them. You'll probably be able to narrow them down to like two possibilities pretty easily. So out of these 12, two will rise to the top, but one of them will align better than another, and that's the one we choose. Okay, so the reason why we grouped innocent, explorer, and sage together today is because even though they're very different characters, they have the same basic goal. They want to find independence and live their personal ideals, but each of them go about it in a different way. So, what are the goals of these archetypal stories?
Yeah, so the innocent has a goal of creating a world that is happy and simple, safe to live the way that they think is healthy and loving and kind. So, because of this, they kind of have this idea that the world used to be more perfect sometime in the past. And they wonder, can we get back to it? It's this Garden of Eden type of idea, right? That we once lived in paradise and then we had to move out into the world and the world was corrupted and there were dangerous and evil things in the world. And so, how do I protect myself from all of that and get back to what is is safe and healthy? And how do we stay free from all of the corrupting influences in our lives?
Gotcha. All
Yeah.
right. The next one is explorer. And the goal of the explorer is to find themselves, to gain experience, to be free, to kind of push further out of their norm. Right, Emily? That's
Right, yeah, they want to be independent, so to speak, from, like, whatever the expectations of society are on them, because they wanna figure out who they are as individuals and then live in harmony with the truths that they discover about themselves.
excellent. And that leads us right into the sage. And they're seeking wisdom,
Mhm.
knowledge, and understanding in order to live a better or their best lives.
Yeah, they think that knowledge, like, the more I know, the more wisdom I have, that means I will have more ability to make my life better, to improve the world. All I need to do is find the right mentor, the right book, the right information to help them take the next step.
Excellent. So let's talk about them. Let's start with the innocent. We're going to go into each one of these and really dive into them so you can understand more of the specifics so you can choose which one would align with my company, with my business, with my brand.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect. So, do you want me to talk about the innocent first?
yeah, let's talk about the innocent.
Okay. So, the innocent is also known as the purist, the idealist, and the traditionalist. And like we were talking about before, the innocent character has a deep yearning for paradise. They want to just live a life of simplicity, of joy, of harmony. In this place, there's no pain, there's no suffering, and there's no want.
They basically their belief like that life doesn't have to be difficult.
Yes,
Be a little simpler.
yes.
Yeah.
Meaningful changes can be made at any moment to create a more ideal existence.
Yeah, dreams of the perfect career
Uh huh.
or partner or home or family
Yes.
exist in this story.
Yes.
Yeah,
As you can imagine, people who are on Pinterest probably fall into this category pretty often. They're looking for this like ideal perfect life. They value authenticity. They like to live by simple principles that foster happiness and harmony. The innocent story promises a way to escape an imperfect world that often feels marred by negativity. The innocent story is about cooperation and connection, not competition.
yeah, and they cherish basic values, wholesomeness, and the beauty of everyday moments. And you can kind of be thinking of some brands that have that and portray that feel.
Yeah, they have a natural optimism, cheerfulness. They can have a playful spirit.
They also offer a path to get out of the fast paced world and get back into simpler, more harmonious ways of living, step out of the chaos and rediscover the simple joys.
Right.
Great story.
Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting if we talked about times when we have felt these different stories wake up inside of us so people can think about their own lives and how they have felt these stories. I think it helps it make more sense.
Yeah, I
Is
agree.
that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of the archetypes that we're going to be talking about have a call or a way of activating the story arc in a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I'm feeling this way, there's a call in me to reach out
Yeah,
the
it's
other.
like a call for you to do something, to act in a certain way, right? To live the story out to its completion.
Yeah.
So times that I have felt the innocent story light up in me usually happen when I see something bad in the world. So examples that I thought of would be like seabirds or sea animals that are all covered in oil after an oil spill, or hungry children who have been cut off from supplies because of war. They did nothing to deserve it, but here they are in this awful situation. School shootings, abuse, things like that. And what I feel when I see things like this happen is this impulse to hold my kids tighter, to insulate them from the world, to keep them safe, to protect them from too quickly learning how bad the world really is. And it also makes me want to do things like feed them the best foods, use the cleanest soaps to bathe them, use the cleanest chemicals to clean my house, wrap them up in the softest blankets and fabrics, right? The innocent story also makes me want to protect and preserve the natural world because I want my children and my grandchildren to live in a beautiful place. So if I am someone that's thinking about these things, I'm trying to live out this story. How do I create this world for my kids? Then I'm going to be looking around me for products and services that promise to help me do this.
Okay. That is a great example. For me, the innocent story comes up when I'm thinking about childhood and the way things used to be growing up.
Mhm.
And so I look for things of nostalgia. If there's an old movie or old toys, or they bring back an old game that I used to play as a child, and I want to relive that and have those memories that existed before I had all the stuff going on in life. That's how I like to live out the innocent brand.
Yeah, if we look back on our past with fond memories and we want to revisit it, that nostalgia. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so if you choose to adopt the innocent brand as your archetype, that means that you would need to find ways to show your customers how your products and services will help them create this world, this ideal world that they envision.
And there are 3 ways you can approach the innocent storytelling as a brand. So each one of these archetypes has 3 levels that you can use to approach it. Level 1 is you could offer childlike simplicity or idealism. This approach would be good for brands that cater to children specifically.
Yeah, so this could be like toys or things geared towards young children and babies.
And then level 2 is you could offer renewal or positivity, reinventing or reframing, cleansing, re-entering the promised land.
Yeah, going back to paradise,
Yeah,
the land of milk and honey.
yeah, and that would be for brands more geared towards adults that wanna make a difference,
Mhm.
make the world a better place. And level 3 is you could offer more of a mystical sense of oneness or connectedness to others in the world, like a sense of shared values, integrity, of being, of if that makes sense.
Yeah, being rather than just doing, right? Like becoming, embodying the values that you represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you market to the innocent, Emily?
Okay, so remember before when we talked about how these different character types bring with them a set of expectations. We already understand their story,
It's
how
in our
they're going to act.
minds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we get that already. So, this is great for a brand and for a designer because there are certain ways that are expected in how to communicate each of these stories. So, for the innocent, we could use colors that are soft pastels, whites, neutrals, leafy greens. These work well because the soft pastels and the whites and the neutrals give this sense of peace, of harmony, of simplicity, of
Less additives
pure. Right, right.
inside it. Yeah.
Yep. Because the more saturated the color is, the more artificial it could look, right? And if we want to get back to what did nature give us?
Yes.
What did we have before people started messing things up? We're going to go back to the lake blues, the fresh greens from nature, the pure white snow.
And as a designer, I love the archetypal system. It makes design decisions just very focused and strategic. There's a
Mhm.
reason for every design choice. And-
Right. You can zero in on this idea just with these design choices.
Oh, I love it. It's
Makes it so
so
easy.
helpful. The next one is images. Good images for the innocent brand are simple. They're uncluttered. They're more classic.
Yeah, I think you
That
also have like common types of scenes that you would use in images too, like mothers and babies or fathers and babies. Also, things like farmland, pastures, mountain meadows,
old-fashioned
scenes from
memories,
nature.
black
Yeah.
and white
Hmm.
films, old photos.
Right, right.
Mhm.
There's like houses with white picket fences, all of these types of things, laundry hanging from a line. They just give you this sense of times past
Times
and
pass.
good solid values that should endure
And
and
you
be
would
passed on.
Yeah, and you would show those images in layouts that have more opening, more white space,
Mhm.
that is more calming and soothing when you use that imagery. And then what about the text and the
Right.
messaging, Emily?
So your copy needs to also be simple and not overwhelming. So you'd probably want to stick to things like simple messages about values or truths that signal to things that would matter to your customers.
That's excellent. The voice of a commercial or your social ads would be
Mhm.
simple. It would be concise. It wouldn't be really wordy. It would be cheerful and optimistic,
Mhm.
reflecting what we've talked about earlier. Yeah, and it just really helps guide so many aspects of the visuals, the things people see.
Yeah, so here are some ideas that you could include in your brand messaging if this is the archetype that you decide to go with. So, like we've been mentioning, you could appeal to a sense of nostalgia that, oh, wow, remember when life was better before or perfect before? You could talk about a desire for peace or ease or things being more natural. You could talk about how some things are worth keeping and passing on. Also, the possibility of new beginnings, of redemption. Innocent characters like predictability, they like certainty, which makes sense. They value serenity, tranquility, balance, gentleness, hope. They strive for goodness, for kindness, trust, and faith. And they are looking for independence from society in order to experience what they perceive to be of greater worth. So it's almost like they are intentionally deciding to step away from the way that society is going and do things in an older way.
So there's some ways to communicate
Mhm.
this to them, but things to be aware of about that target and about speaking to them is the innocent customers dislike people who complain or dwell on problems because they are a little bit optimistic.
Right. So as a brand, you definitely wouldn't want to put anything like that out there on your socials. Even if you see something bad happen in the world, you wouldn't want to focus on that. You would want to focus on what the solutions are, what the optimism is.
And what are some other things that to be aware of?
So innocent customers expect to be the center of your brand's concern, so they come first. They also don't like change, which also makes sense. They are not going to be people who are progressive. They're going to stick to their conservative values. They value consistency. So because of this, it's also very important that you guard your brand's reputation. So you would not want your reputation as a brand to be tarnished because you would alienate your customers.
Yeah. So you pick a spokesperson that shares all those same values as the innocent archetype.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's look at an example of how this story is expressed in a brand. We're going to play an ad from Ivory, and I want you to listen for words and ideas that suggest the innocent story.
You're pure, you're natural, you're one of a kind. You're my ivory, baby.
You're pure, you're soft, you're just the right touch. You're my ivory, baby.
Unlike soaps with heavy perfumes and greasy creams, Ivory is pure. It doesn't need anything else to baby, even a baby's skin.
You're my ivory, baby.
Baby your skin with Ivory.
So in that commercial, they're showing babies, connections between parent and child, or people bathing, or in the shower.
The whole idea of cleansing is
Yeah.
a huge idea for the innocent story.
Yeah. And the audience is looking at that saying, I want that in my life.
Hmm.
That's where I'm going to go for that.
Yeah, of course, I would want to use the purest products on my baby's skin.
Yeah. And there's so many brands that are innocent types. Baskin Robbins is an innocent brand, Coca-Cola, Mary Kay, Pillsbury,
Mhm.
Whole Foods, PBS, Keds,
Mhm.
Cotton.
Perfect. Okay. So if you think that the innocent archetype might be a fit for you, here are some examples of brands that this would be a good identity for. If your brand provides simple answers to identifiable problems, then this might be a good archetype strategy. Or if your brand is associated with goodness, morality, simplicity, nostalgia, or anything that has to do with childhood. If you're associated with cleanliness, health, or virtue. If your products are priced moderate to low. If you possess straight arrow core values, or if you need to differentiate your brand from similar products that have more of a tarnished image, then this would be a good way to attract
Innocent
customers.
will be good for you.
Yes.
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 All right. That's innocent. Let's move to explorer.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites. The explorer is an adventurer, a seeker, a pioneer, a wanderer, an individualist, or a trailblazer. That's a good description, isn't it?
Yes. Not all who wander are lost.
Yeah. And like the
Yes.
innocent, the explorer archetype seeks a better world. However, rather than finding fulfillment by making changes based in traditional values, the explorer embarks on a journey, are driven by a desire to discover what in the outer world aligns with those inner needs, preferences, and aspirations.
Yeah. So the explorer isn't afraid to leave those traditional values behind and go find what's out there and embrace it.
Yeah, don't stay in the safe place. I'm okay going outward and
Hmm.
and taking a little bit of risk.
So fascinating to me. Okay.
Yeah, freedom is paramount to the explorer. They want that freedom, particularly the freedom to live untethered from anything. Like, get me out
Yeah.
of the cage. Let
Yeah.
me go out and get somewhere. They're naturally skeptical of the establishment,
Hmm.
of things that are fixed. They are individuals who value self reliance, libertarian ideas, products that empower them to chart their own course. They love that. You put them in control. They live authentically, guided by their own beliefs and values. They see themselves as trailblazers. They're unafraid to take bold stands for their convictions. This would hit the ages of adolescence, young adults,
Yeah, this
especially.
is a like natural time
Yeah,
for people to be in this phase when they are trying to cut the apron strings
yeah, it's like,
from their families
yeah, they want to find
and
out
get
who
out.
they are, who am
Yes.
I? Yeah, so that happens in that time period. The products and service that cater to explorers act as tools for their journey. Those are things that can help them along the way. So car brands frequently fit into the archetype. They symbolize the modern day steed, or, the horse that would take them off the reservation to explore
On
and
their
adventure.
journey. Yes, the car does that now.
Yeah. Exotic imports and culturally rich goods from far off places, that also appeals to this archetype, fueling their quest to experience the world on their terms.
Awesome.
So,
So when have you felt the explorer story show up in your life?
okay, so obviously I went through the whole teenage thing and I had to break free and all. But recently, I just want to talk about the wonderful years of the world shutting down during COVID, where we were separated from life. So really started to feel this restlessness and this boredom, like, just, I can't stay in this house another minute.
Yep.
I was anxious to get out. So I had a strong desire to get into mountain biking. And as I started to look at the trails, the places to go, the opportunities out there, I started to look at mountain bikes. I started to look at clothing, the shoes I would wear, the accessories that would get me there, even the vehicles to drive me to the places I wanted to go. So think about just having that desire and need. All those different companies, they knew how to speak to me and show me images of getting out and experiencing this adventure. So my mind looked for the explorer archetype story and a place I could live this out in my own life.
That's awesome. I remember feeling a strong explorer desire when I was a senior in high school. I really, really wanted to get out of my town and go somewhere different for college. I wanted to meet interesting people, talk about new ideas. This might have coincided with, you remember back in the day when we still had mail?
Mhm.
And I started getting all of the college brochures from all over the country. Some were coming from Florida, some were coming from Connecticut. I mean, like, all of these places I'd never been, and it started getting me thinking, like, what would it be like to go live somewhere new? And I had taken a humanities class in college and seen all of the beautiful works of art and architecture in Europe. I wanted to travel so badly. I felt this literal sense of, if I could just get to Paris and sit by the Seine and journal, I would somehow discover who I was and what my life's purpose was. And looking back, I laugh, right? Because I got out of the explorer phase and life moved on, but it felt so real to me at the time. I also even thought about like going off and joining the Peace Corps for a while.
The Peace
The
Corps.
Peace Corps.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so bored at home. I remember physically feeling that if I couldn't escape my life, I would literally explode. Later on, more recently, my kids have grown up. And so now I'm in this weird place of kind of rediscovering who I am without them around all the time. So it's kind
Mm.
of reawakening a second explorer phase in me. I've been looking at like how I've changed what adventures I still want to have that I missed out on before. I've also experienced some faith shifts and expansions, desire to like get out of my own experience and find out the experiences of other people. So I'm like really open to new ideas, and tell me what life is like for you. Like, how do you experience this? So I have really resonated with the explorer before. So,
Nice. So it sounds like the call to the explorer story could be if you feel a sense of alienation or how your individuality is butting heads with society or expectations,
mhm.
dissatisfaction, restlessness, yearning for something better, or even boredom, that would be the call.
Yeah.
So if you know your audience and that's what they're feeling, that's why it's so important to know what they feel and who they are.
Mhm.
There are 3 ways you can approach explorer storytelling depending on your brand, product, or service.
Right. So, level 1 would be this idea of going on a road trip, right? Hitting the open road, going out into nature, exploring the world. Products and services that would be great for this idea would be cars, like we talked about before, outdoor type vehicles, ATVs, kayaks, boats, right? Backpacks, sportswear, camping, hiking gear, outdoor sports equipment, accessories that you need for exploration.
Yeah, and level 2 is seeking your own individuality to become fulfilled. So products that would be good for this are personalized products, any kind of traveling, self-help courses or products or retreats, they could fall into that level 2.
Mhm. So this is more of an inward journey,
Yes.
right? Not so
Yeah.
much of a physical one, but trying to discover who you are on the soul level,
Yeah.
right? Level 3 are products or services geared around helping you express your individuality and your uniqueness. So this could be customizable travel gear, unique vehicles or modifications, lifestyle membership programs that encourage unique hobbies or interests.
Yeah. Jump on that and then start speaking to them the way they like to be spoken to.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So, how do you market to the explorer? So, there are, just like with the Innocent brand, there are certain expected ways to communicate the explorer story.
Yeah, their colors depend on the product or service. Like, for example, Caribbean blues and tropical colors would be for like a travel agency or the places or
Or
destinations.
like a cruise line.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And then you have greens and earthy, rugged colors, the colors you would see as you explored out there in the world.
Yeah, as you're stomping around getting mud splattered all over you, right?
Yeah. And this is basically guiding us to the colors we should choose for this story. We're not going to use fluorescent yellows and soft pastels.
Yeah. So, imagery wise,
Yeah.
you could show people out on a journey. So, a lone person hiking a trail or overlooking a mountain valley, expansive photos that show far horizons, wide open spaces. Night skies are good explorer themes. People doing solitary activities like kayaking or hiking, rock climbing, things like that. Ships and maps, navigating tools, backpacks, cameras, all of those types of things are good images that get across that explorer idea really quickly.
Layouts are unique, uh, rambling, out of the box. It's not really organized because they are charting new
Yeah,
places and
so if
destinations.
you were designing a web page, then you might show scattered photographs of different places.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the photos
rambling.
are just paper clipped in or something
Yeah.
like no.
Yeah, exactly. The text or the messages that you would share could be things about like your own journeys, if that's appropriate for your brand, or showing other people on journeys, ways that your life is unconventional. That your voice would be open-minded, resourceful, and tolerant. So explorers, like I said, are open to new ideas. They're accepting. They realize that the people around them are also fellow travelers on their own journeys.
Yes. So here are some ideas on ideas you should think about when crafting your brand message for an Explorer customer. So be aware of this. You want to empathize with the Explorer story from the inside out. Imagine what it would be like to feel trapped by your own life and to yearn for more excitement and adventure, to feel bigger than your own life. You may consider the part of you that wants to belong as dangerous, and the more you set yourself apart, the lonelier you feel.
Yeah, so this is the paradox in the explorer story, right? You want to be your own person, but the further away you wander from everyone else, the lonelier you could feel. So that's an interesting thing that the explorer needs to deal with. How do I be myself, but also still belong to society? Where do I find my people?
Yeah. I usually find groups for mountain biking,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
small groups, but I can still keep my own personal thing, but still be connected.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you come home eventually, so that's good.
Explorers want to experience all life has to offer, the joy of that journey, quick pace, or they get bored. Buzz can be more effective than hype. They're very skeptical of hype.
Which makes sense because they're trying to be their own person.
If
So
I'm just following the
if
leader,
everyone else is excited about it, then an explorer will be like, yeah, lame. I'm going to go find something different.
yeah, so value that change more than consistency.
Yes.
That the brand loyalty is not a natural value for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's better if they find you
Okay.
than you find them. So you kind of have to find ways to market to them without marketing to them, if that makes sense. It needs to feel like they have discovered you. Explorers seek authenticity in a product as a way of expressing individuality. So they would really vibe with things that they felt authentically came from the creator that made them,
Great. They're
more
better.
than something that's like mass produced or, everybody's using it type of an idea.
Exactly. Yeah. They're better informed and they're intimately involved in purchasing decisions. They want to test drive it. They want to try it out.
Yeah,
For them.
their decisions matter to them.
Yeah. They're highly restless, easily distracted, and chronically short on time. Not all of them, but they could be. So you don't want to keep them bored. You don't want to have a
Yeah.
boring layout and
Yeah.
different things. Speaking of, like, how do we brand to them? What are some visuals there?
So the company that we are going to highlight is Jeep.
All right.
Yeah. Jeep is a classic Explorer brand. Not sure if they get more classic than this. Do you want to play the commercial?
Yeah, here comes the commercial.
Okay.
Question. If you can't see what's behind all this, how do you already know? It's Jeep. Probably the same way you know if that thing is chasing a Jeep Wrangler.
It's getting away.
Yeah, it is. Or if it takes you places that make you say,
Whoa!
You just know.
Jeep.
See? He gets it. And if their hair looks like this, or you've got a couple of these, okay, more than a couple. Or if someone says,
The doors come off.
Of course they do. Could even be a game show question.
What is the original SUV?
Ding, ding, ding. But that's why you never have to ask what they're driving. You just know what it was, what it is, and what it always will be. Because when you're an original, there's only one.
Well, that sounded exciting.
It's okay.
Tell us what it showed.
So here's what it shows. So at the beginning, it was showing this dust just being pushed up and water splashes. You couldn't see the vehicle behind it.
Oh.
And it just said, what's behind this wall of smoke. And so what Jeep's doing now, because they've evolved into this, they've done such a good job of being an explorer that they're able to just take that equity, the loyalty, and they put it all inside that commercial. Like, he gets it. You know what's going on. We explore. We are out there. We're doing crazy stuff. It showed, like, if you have hair like this and it showed it blowing, that it's totally in a convertible Jeep and the hair's blowing. You know who we are. You're out there feeling it yourself. They do a great job of that.
Awesome. And I was noticing on their advertisements that shows in here that there's like the Jeeps are featured in front of like mountains, lakes, streams, oceans, those receding horizons behind them, just big wide open spaces.
Yeah.
They're using words like lead the way,
live a life of adventure.
Live a life of adventure, see the world one horizon at a time. So all of this is telling that explorer story. So other brands that fall into the explorer category are Levi's, REI, Subaru, specifically the Outback, Patagonia, Land's End, Amazon, Starbucks, which we talked about last time, Trex, and Columbia Sportswear. This is a good brand identity. If you're thinking about the Explorer, it's a good identity for a brand that helps people feel free or nonconformist or pioneering in some way. If your product is rugged or sturdy or appropriate for use in nature, on the road, or in kind of more dangerous, risky settings. If it is purchased from a catalog or some other kind of alternative source. If your product helps express individuality, if it's purchased or consumed on the go, like an accessory for your journey, if you need to differentiate from an everyman brand, which we will talk about in a couple of episodes.
That is great. Okay. That's 2 archetypes. Now we're going to the third, and that is the sage. And the sage now gets into finding information. This is the teacher and the expert, kind of that guru, thinker, the scholar. What else, Emily? Like descriptors.
The detective,
Mhm.
the advisor, the researcher, the academic, the professional, the mentor.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
And they believe deeply in humanity's ability to learn and to grow and to use knowledge to create a better world. They believe that happiness stems from education and enlightenment. They trust that cultivating a high level of consciousness impacts the ability to make informed choices, that individuals can achieve freedom, prosperity, a richer life. They value independent thought, freedom to hold and explore their own opinions. They're they're known for clarity of thought and analytic skills. They may sometimes lack charisma or social finesse, but they thrive in intellectual pursuits.
Mhm.
Any other aspects about the sage?
Yeah, for those of you who didn't like school, first of all, shame on you. But second of all,
I didn't like school.
there are people who find joy in the process of research. They value having access to relevant and accurate information to help them make decisions. They are naturally drawn to products and services that help with learning and gaining wisdom. They appreciate a challenge. They enjoy engaging with things that involve a learning curve. This allows them to deepen their understanding and expand their knowledge.
All right. So, Emily, when have you felt the sage story in your life? When has this been relevant?
Well, I think there's the obvious ones. Like when I was in college, that was definitely a sage environment.
Mhm.
Everyone around was in the process of learning things and getting smarter and being taught. But I've also felt the sage story wake up in me at times when I feel like I'm lacking knowledge about something. I remember when we were first married and we were struggling to manage our finances. Both of us did not come from families that did that very well. So we lacked some skills there. And I remember we sought out books, we asked financial advisors and other types of business mentors for information so that we could develop that skill. I also feel like I entered a sage journey when I decided to homeschool our kids when they were young. I didn't know anybody who had done that before. And I needed resources to know all about that and what I was doing. And I feel like learning about all of that stuff actually contributed to me going into my career as a teacher, which is interesting because a teacher is also highly tied to the sage idea, right? I am constantly in this process of gaining more knowledge, developing lessons so that I can be a better mentor to my students.
Yeah, she is an incredible educational absorber. That's just Emily. That's who she is.
Yeah, I probably live in this story more than all of the other ones.
Yeah. She loves to read. She could get that information very well uh, through books. My mind moves a little more crazy, if that's a good word. I like movement and quick bites of information to guide me. So the brand that I think of that helps me out through this is TED Talks. And TED is a great example of a sage brand. They're amazing at getting key points to me very quickly and very bite size, 10 to 15-minute serving sizes. You're learning from the guru, but they're taking all that information and giving it to me very simply.
Mhm.
And so I go there because they can make that translation
Yeah.
and feel smart about complicated like topics.
Yeah. Oh, I've got another one for you, by the way. Came
Oh,
across this one the other day. It's called Blinkist.
Blinkist.
Blinkist. And they take the best books that are out there on all the topics, and then they consolidate them into 10-minute little podcasts.
Oh,
Like, here's
my
what this book is all
awesome.
about. Here's all the main ideas. So,
That is so great. I
yeah.
helped Riley do a paper on Romeo and Juliet once. And I think I had to go to YouTube to watch like a quick, like, Riley, you have to have this done tomorrow. Let's, I need this in 10 minutes. How do we do
I can't
this?
handle my family. Okay.
Hey, TED Talks always deliver. So
Oh my gosh.
we're good.
Okay, so the call to the stage story, and sounds similar to what has happened to us, is that a person feels confused, they feel doubt, or some deep desire to find the truth about something. And then you go out on a journey to find that information.
All right. And there are 3 ways you can approach that sage storytelling depending on your brand, product, or service. So let's go through those levels again. Emily, what?
Okay, so the level 1 is just to search for absolute truth. You're looking for objectivity. So you don't want to be pulled in either direction. You just want the facts. You want to listen to experts that actually know what they're talking about. For example, products and services that fall on this level are like reference books, encyclopedias, textbooks, research tools, academic journals, databases, e-learning classes like Khan Academy. I use that a lot at school. Masterclass, expert-led webinars, consulting firms, universities, museums. All of these are things that fall under that search for objective truth.
Great. Level 2 is for skepticism. It's critical and innovative thinking. It's becoming an expert in the industry. This would be products and services like advanced analytic tools, think tanks, professional equipment, high-end cameras, or lab grade microscopes. Mastermind groups fall into this. Critical analysis, publication, R&D labs, robotics.
Yeah. So it's almost like level 1 is, okay, let's learn the facts, but then level 2 is moving beyond that. Let's push
Implement
into
it.
what we don't know and go further,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Let's question everything and take it apart and see what happens. Level 3 is having gained wisdom, confidence in your field of study, mastery, and products and services that line up with this level of storytelling are customized solutions like software or things like philosophical or reflective works, books, guides, ethical frameworks and models, immersive programs, summits, mentorship or legacy programs, one-on-one coaching, global leadership forums,
Great
all of
list.
those types of things.
That is great. And then how do you market to those companies? How do we market to the sage?
Mhm.
You don't want to be very foo-foo in colors. They want information. They want black and white. So use black and white. Use
Well, and that makes sense in the sense of information. We're looking for what's true and what's false. So black and white works well with enlightenment versus the darkness of doubt, right?
and not get a lot of ideas coming from all different directions. I want
Clarity.
clarity. Also, grays, dusty or innovative colors are good to consider.
Yeah, I
for color.
think the grays and the dusty colors get at a sense of sophistication. I also think that maroons, darker reds, darker blues seem to feel to me like they are kind of that Ivy
Yeah.
League feel as well.
We've done a lot of Sage brands, so we don't get caught up at just using just those colors because we've used orange for innovative technologies like for robotics or rockets.
Yeah.
Images are more subdued, they're dignified, they're elite. You want to show the technology, you want to show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For layouts, if you're like designing a website, your layout would need to be organized so that you could find the information that you're looking for. But a Sage customer might also like to have a lot of rabbit trails, like links to places to follow so that they could continue their research on whatever topic it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, the text and messaging to them is give them details, relevant and interesting. Give them background information, sources, leave them feeling educated, in the know, that they understand. That's how you speak to them. Your brand voice is factual, decisive, authoritative, intelligent, and researched. I I don't want to know that. I just want to know the why. Is this good? You thought about it? Cool, I'll do it. They want to know all
Someone
this
just
stuff
tell
underneath.
me.
So here's some ideas you should think about when crafting your brand messaging for the
Or a
Sage. Yeah.
So a Sage customer is interested in learning for its own sake. They read, analyze patterns, and they test all the assumptions. Make sure that you share your research process and statistics about your product or service. They value freedom and independence as a means of keeping their objectivity. They fear being duped by misinformation. So it's important to establish credibility and then to maintain that credibility over time. Being recommended to them by a trusted expert and providing them with lots of relevant information that allows them to make an informed decision are good marketing strategies.
Yeah, things to be aware of is in your sell system, make sure you never talk down to them or use a hard sell. Let them figure it out. As soon as you hard sell them, they're going to feel like they've been taken out of the decision and you've made that, not them.
Yeah.
They don't feel
Yeah.
empowered.
And they've lost that objectivity. Like they
Yeah.
need to feel like they're in control of that decision.
Yeah, and all through that process, they need to feel competent in charge of the transaction.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some examples.
Okay, so this is really funny, you guys. We looked at 3 or 4 Sage brands when we were putting this podcast together to try to find a commercial for you. And every single one had no voices. They're all text, all type.
Which they're following
Some
how
of
to
them
market
some of
to
them are
them,
playing music.
but they would not use a dubbed over voice trying to convince you or hard sell you.
Yeah.
They were saying, "You figure this out. You have eyes. You can read.
Yeah.
Here's some music."
So, because you probably don't just want to listen to music, I will describe the New York Times ad for you that we looked up. So, the New York Times ad just had a black background and then it had white words that were being typewritten, like a typewriter text onto the screen. So, very reminiscent of a newspaper. That makes sense, right?
Mhm.
And they were just typing little headlines that had been in the newspaper about COVID. And they all had to do with people's questions, people's doubts about what was happening, right? So they were headlines that said things like, do we know where it came from? Do masks really work in preventing the spread? How contagious is it? Like all of these different concerns people were having about COVID while it was happening. And then after it went through all of those, at the end, it just said, the truth is essential. So it got people thinking of all of the doubts, all of the questions they had, all of this unfamiliar territory, right? It's this call to confusion. There are all these things I don't know. And then at the end, the New York Times is saying, basically, we have the truth, and this is how important it is This is how relevant what we do is for people.
We don't,
Because where would we be without that?
yeah, we don't print things that aren't true. So we are a place and a resource to come to
Mm-hmm.
with those doubts. And it was very effective.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the other ones we looked at were like Harvard, MIT.
Same.
They were all the same type of video. So we had never noticed that before.
Music,
that there
visuals,
wasn't
showing tech stuff
Yeah.
and showing the libraries and just showing that this is a source of information.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
The ad that I found for the New York Times. This is really funny because it's in front of the Wall Street Journal building, and they have a billboard across the street from it that says Brooklyn is 18% more news literate than you. And then it says the New York Times. So anyway, I thought that was funny. And then we have like Harvard. I found an ad that said investing in innovation. And one that said, trust the process and trust yourself even more.
So the language, the words all matter.
Yeah.
And they know how to speak to them with
So
that psychological archetype.
Activating that whole Sage story. Yeah.
Yeah. So other Sage brands you've seen out there, Leapfrog, Duolingo, MIT, the Mayo Clinic, Stanford, Google, Wall Street Journal, Morgan Stanley, Audi, Consumer Reports, CNN, Barnes and Noble. So what a good identity for a brand.
Yeah. So if you're considering the Sage archetype,
Yeah.
this is good for brands that provide expertise or information to your customers. If your brand encourages customers or clients to think, if your brand is based on a new scientific breakthrough or some kind of knowledge, the quality of the brand is supported by hard data. So if you have really good research to back your brand up, this might be a good choice for you. Also, if you are differentiating the product from others whose quality or performance is questionable, those would be good ideas for Sage brands.
Okay.
All right, so let's go back through our key takeaways from our episode today. So the innocent archetype emphasizes simplicity, optimism, and the pursuit of a harmonious, ideal life. This story appeals to audiences seeking trustworthiness, nostalgia, or a sense of pure, untainted joy. The explorer archetype represents freedom, discovery, and individuality, inspiring people to seek new experiences and find themselves through adventure. Brands that resonate with this archetype attract independent, adventurous audiences eager to push boundaries. And the Sage archetype is centered on knowledge, wisdom, and the pursuit of truth, aiming to empower people through learning and understanding. This archetype appeals to intellectually curious audiences who value information and insight. Let us know what you think about these three archetypes. Do you have questions? Can you think of other brands that you think fall into these categories? Also, are you thinking that one of these might be a good fit for your company? We would love to hear from you.
If you are finding our content helpful, please subscribe, leave us a review, or rate the podcast. This helps us reach more people trying to build their brands. Check out the link in the show notes to review the entire archetype wheel, and join us next week as we explore the hero, outlaw, and magician archetypal stories. Remember to keep dreaming big, and until next time, I'm Brian Halley.
And I'm Emily Halley. Take care.